Well, hello there, I'm back. I just realized I think I accidentally went live when I was not meaning to be live yet. I was not quite ready, so... Oh, mercy. I hope folks join back in on this new feed because I'm a little more prepared this time. So, my goodness. Okay. So, we're going to try and do this. I was not able to do my live last night because I have bronchitis and I was coughing like crazy last night. So hopefully that's not going to happen tonight. I have loaded up on my cough medicine and I have my cough drops nearby. So hopefully that's going to take care of things. But sorry for those of you who I was just live and didn't realize it for a minute. So, yeah, I ran down here. I have no idea. I talk to myself a lot. So I don't even know if I was talking to myself. So I deleted that post very quickly. So hopefully I didn't do anything embarrassing. I know I was trying to get my camera set. And anyway, okay, you got to see my shoes. Yay, my Chuck Taylors. So, thanks, Leanne. I am feeling some better. I still got the cough going on, so I'm trying to deal with that. But I did want to go ahead and do this live tonight because I have some cool stuff. I got new products in today that are not available yet to customers. They will be available March 1st, but they are available to demonstrators. And so I got some of those products in today and kind of been playing with those just a little bit. And I wanted to show you what those are so you know what to expect. And also, just to remind you, I'm going to reach back here and grab my secret stash of cough drops. To let you know that it is still Sale-a-Bration time. And so with every $50 purchase that you make during Sale-a-Bration, you get to select an item from the Sale-a-Bration catalog. And if you don't have, there's when you go to the Stampin' Up website, just stampinup.com, you can see all of the specials for Sale-a-Bration. Click on what's new or sales and specials or something like that. And you can see all of the stuff that's in our new mini catalog that's current right now, the January to June. And then also you can see the Sale-a-Bration items and what you can earn for free. Lots of really beautiful stuff. And so tonight we're going to use one of those free stamp sets. And quite honestly, when I first looked at it, it was probably my least favorite stamp set in the whole thing. And then I saw this card that I'm going to make tonight. It's a German demonstrator had created it. And so I thought, well, I'm going to have to try and do this. So I got to learn a little German in the process because her video is not translated. She just talks in German the whole time. So I had to listen to what she was naming products and then try to look at the German name on the stamp pads or whatever and figure out what she was saying. So we're going to make that card in just a few minutes. And then I'm also going to show you the new product after that. So I hope you are ready to get some stamping done. Also wanted to remind you I have Chicks and Chocolate coming up on February 24th. I've posted that event in the Facebook page. Thanks, Ginger. I am feeling a little bit better. Good drugs, cough medicine, cough drops, all that stuff. So hopefully trying not to cough too much. But anyway, so Sale-a-Bration, Chicks and Chocolate. Now remember also, Sale-a-Bration ends February 28th. So if there's something that you want, the Sale-a-Bration products are while supplies last. So we haven't really gotten any updates as far as if anything's running low. So that's a good sign. But you don't want to take a chance. If there's a Sale-a-Bration item that you're wanting to get for free, make sure you make that purchase. And I've got a host code to show you here in just a minute. And when you use that host code and purchase during the month of February, when you purchase at least $50, which gets you your free Sale-a-Bration item, it also is going to get you a free, let's see here, there we go, free pack of the iridescent rhinestones. See if you can see those. They are absolutely gorgeous. They're probably my favorite gem that we have so far, and I have a whole bunch of them. And because I have a huge goal that I'm still trying to reach. I didn't quite reach it last month, and so I'm still trying to reach that goal. And so I'm just trying to encourage folks to get those Sale-a-Bration orders in and earn some free stuff when you do. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera down. Move some things out of the way here. I've got... Alright, I think that's good. Let me get you flipped and turned. And I gotta move this down. I've got some crazy cords over here. Dimensional backings everywhere. Okay, so here is the February host code. When you go to this link, it links you directly to my shop. And then when you place an order, if you use this host code, you'll get that free pack of iridescent rhinestones when your order is $50 or more. And so here is the card that we're going to make. And I'm so excited about it. I love it. I love the blending back here, just these soft colors. And so it's really pretty easy to make. You will notice that these pineapples are fussy cut. And so that's probably the hardest thing of all right there, is just cutting those pineapples out. And that's really not even very hard. So we are going to get busy. Now I've got a little basket here with all my supplies in it. So here is the stamp set we're using. This is the Island Vibes. And then we're going to use this Happiest Birthday Wishes from the Artfully Layered. I love this. This is the stamp set that we will be stamping from, the suite that we will be using in the February Chicks and Chocolate class. So if you like that stamp set, and the paper is beautiful, and our cards, I should have some cards to show you. I do actually. So here are just a couple of the cards that we will be making at Chicks and Chocolate this month. So here is one more. And so you can see with this paper is gorgeous. We're letting the paper do a lot of the work for us. And it's gorgeous. Now, we are going to get started. We need a half a sheet of basic white thick cardstock because we're using this for our base. And so we always want to use the thick cardstock for our base because our regular white is just, it's the thinnest of all of our cardstock. And so we really don't want to use that for a base. It's kind of flimsy. All right, so we're going to go to 4 1/4, and then I'm going to use my scoring blade on my Stampin' Trimmer. And you'll notice I have put red nail polish on my cutting blades to make sure that I don't get confused and accidentally cut something. And then we are going to take a piece of white. Now I've got my measurements right over here if you want to write those down or take a screenshot. And now she was using metric measurements, and so I had to kind of figure out what those measurements were going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and do the 1 3/4 piece first. And then it needs to be 3 3/8. It could probably be 3 1/2, and it wouldn't be a problem. That 1/8 of an inch is not going to make a big difference. So let me make sure. Yes, that is correct. And then I need a piece that is 1 inch by 3 1/2 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this at 1 inch. Now we're going to trim this down just a little bit, but I did want to have a little bit extra on there to trim. And then 3 1/2, and it's already there. So we're good. Okay, so we've got our card base. Let me move this out of the way. We have our card base. We have this piece, and we do need one more piece, which is a piece of Whisper White that is 4 by 5 1/4, and that's going to layer on there. So we're doing a white on white card, which is really one of my favorite cards. I just love how elegant they look when we use that white on white. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to emboss, if you can see this detail in here. So we're going to use our new gingham embossing folder. And let me pull the big boss in here. So this is our big stamp and cut and emboss machine, and I'll kind of pull back a little bit here so you can see it, but this is the Mac Daddy. And we're using this one because we're using an embossing folder, and it is wide. So these are the plates that we use, and on the base plate it shows you the layers that you need for your sandwich. That's what we call it. So we're using this one here. So we're using number 1, and then we're using 2 number 3 plates, and then our folder will go in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and just put those there for a minute. And I'm going to hope that I haven't lost my... No, here it is. My embossing folder. Now, one thing that I like to suggest when you're embossing is to just... I keep a little bottle with some water in it. And I am just going to lightly, you can see this, lightly mist this piece of paper. And that's just going to soften up the fibers of the paper a little bit. And you'll get a really good deep emboss when you do that. And so I'm going to put that in there. I'll line it up, fold it. The folded edge always goes through the machine this way. And so I've got my sandwich. So I've got my number 1 plate, number 3 plate. And then I'm going to put my embossing folder down. And sometimes I like to just put it on a little bit of an angle. It helps it go through easier. And then I'll put my other plate on top. And then just start cranking. I'm sorry if this wiggles the table too much. There we go. Not too bad. This is a pretty smooth machine. So let me set this aside now. And... take out our embossing folder, put our plates away. Okay. Come back down a little bit closer again so we can see. Now, when I take that out, you can see how good and embossed that is. All right. Yes, I did make it online, Ange. Holy cow. Still have a little bit of that cough going, but by golly, that is not going to stop us from stamping, right? The stamping must go on. Okay. So, again, here's the Island Vibes. And one thing we're going to be using, this is what we call a, the word just left me. Holy cow. Distinctive, there you go. Oh my goodness, COVID brain. I'm going to use that for everything now. So this is a distinctive set, so it has a lot of realistic details in it. And one thing, excuse me, with the distinctive sets is the less ink you use, the better your image is going to be. If you get too much ink on these, then you're not going to get this really detailed image that's in here. So we're going to be using these 2 stamps, these leaves and then the pineapple. And so I've got the leaves here. And so what I'm going to use is I'm going to use our blending brushes to ink these up. And we are going to be using Pear Pizzazz and Bumblebee. And I'm going to start off inking Bumblebee. I usually, when I'm doing something like this, whoops, I'm sorry, we're not doing Bumblebee yet. We're doing the leaves, so we're doing Pear Pizzazz, sorry. I'll just hold that thought for a moment until I get to the Bumblebee. So I've got my brushes, blending brushes, and I love these. Now what I have done is I keep 1 brush per color family, we'll say. So I've got greens, I've got purples, I've got bluish teal color, I've got my reds, I've got my pink, we've got orange, and we've got yellow. And so I keep them that way, and it's a lot easier. You don't have to worry about your colors getting muddy on the brushes when you do that. So what I typically try to do before I start stamping is I'm going to just rub my brush. Now this is a green and I just use this, so I don't really have to clean it. But if I was going for a different color, I might want to do that. So let's go ahead and do the background of this first. And so I'm going to take some of the Pear Pizzazz, and I'm going to start off here because you don't want to get a big blob of ink. And I did just kind of re-ink my pads. And so I'm going to start off just very light, and then I can increase the pressure if I need to. But I'm just going to rub it on here. It also brings out the details of this embossing folder. And so just kind of put some, then it's very random, however you want to do it. And then I'm going to come and get some of the Bumblebee. And kind of start off here. And just start off just barely touching the paper, and then you can increase pressure as you need to. And just kind of blend those together to give a little bit of our background color. Okay, so sorry I'm coughing. I feel terrible. So we're going to set this aside and let this dry a little bit, because remember, we spritzed that with water before we ran it through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So now here is our leaf die, our leaf stamp. And I'm going to ink this stamp up using my blender brush, because it's going to give me a very light application of ink. And you can kind of... Now, one thing, if you're new to stamping, our ink pads are water-based. And so let's say I ink this up, but then I just get distracted talking, because sometimes that happens, you know. What you can do is you just bring this up and huff on it, just blow a little hot air, and that will re-moisten that ink. And I'm just going to stamp this on here just so you can kind of see. It's very light, so if I want to, I'm going to come back and just put a little bit, maybe do a little bit heavier. And you can also, I have done it this way too, because this ink pad was a little bit dry. Now I have to be careful because I've got some ink around the edges, so I'm going to have to be really careful. But then you can come back with this, and this is going to kind of remove a little bit of that ink. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a Granny Apple Green Stampin' Right marker, and we're just going to kind of come around the edges and just add a little bit of detail in here. It's nothing like seriously kind of any art design. It's just adding in some detail. So I'm going to take this little piece that we cut, and I'm going to stamp. And I'm going to try to make sure that I'm stamping off of the edge. And I'm just going to hold. I'm not going to let my block rock this way, because remember, I had those lines. I'm really afraid I'm going to get those. Oh, I did it. Oh, mercy, that was good. All right. Now see how adding that little edge of Granny Apple Green around there just gave us a little bit of detail and gave us some variation and variegation in the color. So that's perfect. I love that. Yay. I love it when it works out the first time. Sometimes it doesn't happen. All right. Now for the next part, for our pineapples, you just need some scrap Whisper White cardstock, because we're going to cut those out. And so I'm going to set my leaves to the side here. And I'm going to come with my pineapple. And I've got my blending brush. I'm going to pick up some of the Bumblebee. And so what I started to say earlier was, when I'm doing something like this and I'm doing two colors that are on the same stamp, I'm going to put my lighter color on first. And that way, when I put the darker color on, if it happens to cross over, it's not going to mess up my blending brush or anything like that. And so then I'm going to take and pick up some of the Pear Pizzazz and just put that on these leaves. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take the Granny Apple Green, and I'm just going to kind of do a few little swipes on the leaves there. Nothing exciting. I'm also going to take Pumpkin Pie, and just kind of go around the edges of this pineapple just to give it a little bit of color around the edges. I'm going to set these out of the way. I just huffed on it to make sure that it's good and moist, going straight down, and I'm going to hold it for a second without rocking it, without moving it. That allows the ink to soak into the paper a little bit, and then I'm going to pull straight up, and there we go. See how pretty that is? I love it. Now for this card you need 2 of these, so I'm going to go ahead and stamp 2 of them. However, we have a little magic going on, and they may already be cut out for me. How about that? Now, one thing when you're getting excited doing this, make sure you're paying attention to what color blending brush you have in your hand and what color ink pad you're going into, because let's just say I have been known to put the wrong color blending brush into the wrong color ink pad. And I'm going to take my pumpkin pie and just kind of just go a little, just barely around the edge, just to give a little bit darker color on my pineapple. Breathe on it just a little bit. Again, it's just a scrap piece of paper. Stamping straight down, and then holding it for a second, letting that ink absorb into the paper, and then pulling straight up. Perfect. Now let me rinse my stamp off. I've got my Stampin' Scrub right here under my table. I have 2 layers to my table, so that's convenient for me. All right, so now what we're going to do, that's all the stamping we have for these colors. So I'm going to go ahead and get these ink pads closed up. I'm going to get them out of the way, get my blending brushes. Now before I put them away, I do like to just brush them off as much as possible. Another way you can clean these is if you have a microfiber cloth, you can just keep that close by and just brush it until you stop seeing color come off. And so before I put them away, I'm trying to be better. So before I put them away, I'm going to get some of this extra ink off. That way, if something bumps into it, hopefully not a lot of ink is going to, or hopefully no ink is going to come off on it. So I'm going to take my paper snips, and we're going to cut these out as close as you can, carefully. And I have a little magic box here, and looky here, I have 2 pineapples already cut out, ready to go. How about that? I didn't think you wanted to watch me cut out 2 pineapples tonight, so I thought I would just save you a little bit of time. So we've got our little piece here, we've got our 2 pineapples, and now we're going to kind of start putting this card together. I can find it on my pieces. So this is the piece that we embossed, and then we used our brushes, Bumblebee and Pear Pizzazz, to just brush some color on there. And I'm going to just adhere this directly to my card with our trusty green glue. If I can get it going. Here we go. And let's see. Perfect. Make sure your Bumblebee is at the top and your Pear Pizzazz is at the bottom. I probably should put some glasses on to keep doing this, but I've laid them down somewhere. I think I found a pair over here. This pair is a little bit too strong, but something is better than nothing, I believe. Okay. Whew, that made me seasick. All right, so we've got that. Now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put this piece down. And I am going to use, I think I'm going to bring in my tear tape for this. Because it's going down on this textured surface, I just want to make sure that it's going to stay. And that's the beautiful thing about this tear tape, is it will just rip it off pretty easy. Okay, now I'm going to take my bone folder and just really burnish this down really well. That makes those, it makes the backing come off so much easier when you do that. All right. And so I'm just going to kind of put this up here a little bit towards, a little bit above halfway maybe, and kind of in the center as much as I can. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take some, this is the Simply Elegant trim, and I'm going to take a string of the gold and just kind of wrap it around my hand, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. It's just whatever you're feeling at the moment. Cut that, put this back in here, because this stuff likes to unwind. So I'm going to get it contained, put it back in the Ziploc bag pretty quickly. All right, now the next thing I'm going to do, because we're also going to be putting some ribbon down here. And I want to make sure that that ribbon is going to stay. This is going to get covered up. I'm going to run 2 strips of my tear tape right here onto, now this is still on the front of that little piece that we stamped with the leaves. I'm going to burnish this down really well and peel this off. I see we've got several people watching already, so that's fantastic. Give me, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I would love to know that. I am in Strawberry Plains, Tennessee, which is just outside of Knoxville, close to Sevierville, home of Dolly. And also, last week I asked this, and I want to ask again. I would love to know what kind of techniques and things that you would like to see me demonstrate. And so this is just kind of random. I'm pressing this gold trim down. You can see the glare on that tear tape. And so I'm just kind of pressing this down however it wants to go. And, you know, you can drop it down the bottom a little bit. And I always think when I see other people do cards with this, I think, oh my goodness, they did it so perfectly. How'd they do it? And they just do it randomly. I always feel like mine didn't lay down just the way I wanted it to, but it's just random. So don't feel like that. Just put it down there and let it be. All right, now we're going to take, this is my favorite part of this card, I think. This is our frayed ribbon, and I'm going to just kind of lay this piece out here, and I'm going to cut it just a little bit past the edge here. Not much, but just a little bit. All right, I love playing with ribbon, and so what we're going to do is see how this is pulling. We're going to sit here. Oh, this is doing so much better tonight than it did earlier. Well, now I say that, it's not going to do it. If you do this very slowly and very patiently, it just unfrays or frays. And you can do it as much or as little as you want. Okay. I'll do just a couple more. I really love this frayed look. So whenever it gets to the point that you're happy with it, just trim that one little piece off right there. Well, crud. There we go. So now I have this piece of ribbon with this frayed tail, and I'm going to come back here and just kind of cut this a little bit straighter. Okay, let's put this in the trash. And so now I've got this tear tape that's down here, and I am going to place this ribbon and press it down onto that tear tape. All right, so we've got that. And now we have our 2 pineapples here, and we're going to place the pineapples right on top of there. And I'm going to use Stampin' Dimensionals for that. I was watching another demonstrator the other day. She has a counter on the top of her videos that counts how many dimensionals she uses in a project, which I thought was pretty funny. Okay, so these pineapples, you can put them anywhere you want to. And you know, it's kind of cold and not super icky here. We had a little, our afternoons have been pretty warm, but the mornings have been really cold. So looking forward to warmer days here. Okay, so you could totally leave this card just like this without adding a sentiment, and then you could just write a note on the inside. You don't have to have a sentiment on the front of every card. You have permission not to do that. But we are going to make this a birthday card. And so we're going to do some heat embossing, which I don't do an awful lot for demonstrating, but it's a fun technique, and so we want to do that. So we have this little piece that's 1 by 3.5 inches, and when you do heat embossing, you need Versamark ink. Versamark is a very thick, sticky ink, and it doesn't dry very quickly. And so that's what you want, because you don't want it to dry quickly, so that you have time to get the embossing powder onto the ink. Now I'm taking, this is an embossing buddy. We used to sell these. We don't sell these anymore. You could take a Swiffer pad, a Swiffer thing, put over, it's to help remove static electricity. Also, it absorbs some oils. I use a lot of lotion, and so the oils from my finger, the embossing powder will stick to that. So I have in this little container some gold embossing powder. Our embossing powders come in little tubs like this, and I just put mine into this little container. It's easier to get it back in there when it's done. Makes a lot less mess. These are 97 cents at Walmart, and they are called crayon boxes. So I love those. So now I'm going to just tap. Now this is a foam pad. You want to just, you don't want to mash into this, because you'll end up getting the ink all around the edges. And then if you happen to rock your stamp at all, then you're going to also have that embossing ink. And then the embossing powder will stick. So that powder is going to stick everywhere. Now you can't see it. This is a clear ink. But when you twist it to the light a little bit, hopefully you can see a little shadow of that. So this is, it's going to dry, or it's going to stay wet a little bit longer. And let's cover that up, because we don't want embossing powder getting on that. So I've got this little tiny spoon in here that I've gotten covered up. Okay, so now I'm going to take my little card, I'm going to scoop up some embossing powder. I'm going to start at the top and then just let it fall. And there you'll see how that embossing, and this is going to be gold. And so it looks very dull and muted. I'm going to come back and do just another little scoop just to make sure that it got really covered well. And then tap it off. Put my spoon back in there. Always make sure you close it up before you do anything else, or you'll have embossing powder flying everywhere. Now, if you happen to notice any stray bits of embossing powder, I usually keep a little brush. You could just brush it off and clean it up just a little bit if you need to. All right, so there we go. Now, I'm gonna get my embossing tool. Now this is, I try to protect my surface, so this is a glass cutting board that I have just covered with aluminum foil. And I'm going to put my sentiment right here. And I'm going to use my take your pick tool to just kind of hold one corner down while I heat emboss. All right, this is gonna get a little bit loud, so I have my heat tool here. It's plugged in and I've got it stretched about as far as it can go. So you're not gonna see it very much in the video, but I'm gonna turn it on. And I'm gonna start in one place, and as soon as I see the embossing powder start to melt, then I'm gonna start moving my heat tool. So I hold it until, hopefully you can see that, it's just started changing. There it goes. And then once I see it change, I'm going to just move slowly and watch it melt. You don't want to do this too long because you can burn the embossing powder. And let's see. And there we go. Whoops, lost it. And down on the floor. So there's that gold. Now when you do this with the light, if you see any dull spots, you want to go back and hit it with the heat tool again. So there's that. I know, Angie, unraveling the ribbon, how about that? There was another ribbon we had, I think it was 2 years ago now, that I absolutely loved doing that too. Now I'm going to trim this down because I want this to be 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to trim this down just a tad on either side. And hopefully I can do it without, let's see. We'll see. Because we have a punch that I want to slip this into. And I think this will go in. Well, it needs to, I need to trim it just a little. I always hate, I'm afraid I'm going to trim just too much, but I think, there we go. Now this punch will let you do 3 different sizes. And so, I'm not sure. We're going to go with that. I think it's close enough. I could probably cut that just a little bit closer, but I'm not going to. But, well, I got a little funky there. That's okay. I'm not going to worry about it. So now I'm going to bring this card back in, and I'm just going to put 2 dimensionals on either side because this is going to adhere to the ribbon. Now, this is our dimensionals. I do not waste any of my dimensionals. So, do whatever you have to. And because our pineapples are already raised up, you don't want to put a dimensional on the middle, but you could put just a little bit of our green glue if your green glue wasn't clogged up. And so that way that'll hold it down in the center as well. It just gives you a little extra insurance. And there we go. So there is our card. Yes, the punch is cool and kind of scary. I really could have gotten a little closer, but with the pressure of knowing somebody's watching me, I decided not to and just roll with it. I don't think anybody's going to notice that little corner piece. I think they're going to be looking at everything else, and they're going to love it. Now, I also want to stamp the inside of my card. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky because I don't want to get ink everywhere. So I am going to try to wipe my hands off a little bit, make sure I don't have ink all over me. And I'm going to grab my Pear Pizzazz ink pad and my Granny Apple Green Stampin' Right marker just like we did before. And I'm going to grab my blending brush so that I can pick up this paper, or pick up this ink and not get too much on there. Now, also when I'm stamping the inside of my cards, I don't want a whole lot of ink on there anyway because I will probably be writing over this image, so I don't need it to be too much. And really when I do this, I just kind of follow some of the little contours that are in the stamp, like where the leaf breaks. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. And I'm just doing very light little sweeps over it. I'm going to breathe on it. Now, one thing I noticed when I was stamping earlier, that it's really easy to think that you're off of the edge, but this it just is not. So I'm going to really pull this down so that I know for sure I'm off the edge, and I hope I didn't just rock that. I did a little bit, but so I'm just going to put a little leaf there in the middle. or I'm on the bottom. But you know what? When I watched this demonstrator stamp today, she stamped the back of the card as well, and I thought that was just totally cool. And so I'm going to do that too. And I wish I could say her name. It's German, and I don't know how to say her name. So, but she was a very lovely demonstrator, and she did a great job demonstrating this card. And like I said, I really had no desire to get this stamp set beforehand. I'm going to do this and tap it, and it's going to mute that Granny Apple Green just a little bit. I'm going to flip this open, give it a little huff, and then just stamp on this corner as well. And then I have, this is a very old stamp that was one we used to have, created by, or created for you. And so I'm just going to stamp that back here. And then you should always sign your cards. Let people know that you created them. So there we go. Now, we can't forget our envelope. And so I would just do the same thing. Just carry this theme with the leaves. Grab the Granny Apple Green. Once you do this a little bit, you get really good at just throwing this Granny Apple Green on here pretty fast. There we go. I'm just going to do this in the bottom corner. I have heard people say you need to be careful if you're stamping things over in this area, because this is where the scanners go. So you want to be careful about not stamping too much over that area. Hey Barb, thanks. I'm glad you like it. It really is interesting. Oh, and you know what? What have we not added? I'll give you 3 guesses. If you know me, you will know what we have not added. And that is a little bit of bling. So I'm going to use the Genial Gems. I haven't used these in a while, and so I wanted to pull them out again. And I've got this kind of greenish color. I think it is Soft Succulent, it's supposed to be, but it looks very much like this Granny Apple Green. And then I believe this is Pale Papaya up here. Whoops. And so I'm going to put one of those. Well, maybe. All right. Here we go. I had one stuck to my finger. We'll use that one. And okay, now there we go. I love it. So we've got this gingham embossing folder. This is in our January to June mini catalog. This is the elegant trim. It comes with silver and gold. This is in our annual catalog. We've got gold embossing powder. We've got the Genial Gems. These are in the annual catalog. We've got this Island Vibes stamp set, which is free when you have a $50 purchase during Sale-a-Bration. And then we use Pear Pizzazz and Bumblebee with a little hint of Granny Apple Green and Pumpkin Pie. So that is our finished card, I hope. Oh, and we've got the frayed ribbon. That's my favorite part of the whole thing. Well, I don't know. The gems may be my favorite too, but I love these gems. And then we've got our little stamp there, stamp on the back, and then our matching envelope. So if you've been cold and, I don't know, sad, this card hopefully is giving you visions of warmth and being happy in the sun. I love this one. All right, so now I'm going to change gears just a little bit, and I'm going to give you a sneak peek of some new products that came in. Let me kind of get some things off my space here so I can bring these other items in. So we have a new suite. Now Stampin' Up, they like to, you know, they gotta have something new coming out all the time, right? That's the way it goes. And I am absolutely in love with this stuff. So this is the Waves of Inspiration stamp set. There is also a set of dies that goes with it. So it cuts out, and you can layer these 2 dies here, and they make a beautiful wave. I haven't gotten to play with this too much. I did play a little while ago because it just came in not long before I went turned the live on the first time when I didn't realize I was actually live. That was so funny. And then we have designer series paper. Let me grab it back here. Now I cut this paper down to 6 by 6, but this paper is actually 12 by 12. But I wanted you to be able to see it a little bit easier. So this is the front and back design, or front and back, however you want to do it. Now this designer series paper, if you've seen anything, if you're a crafty person, this acrylic pour stuff probably shows up in your Facebook feed. And so that's what the designers did. They did acrylic pours on large canvases, and then they took photos of it and turned it into designer series paper. And it is absolutely gorgeous. So that's one sheet. This is the next, whoops, a minute. Yeah, that's right. Now these sheets, now this is very hard because these sheets are, the entire 12 by 12 is just different all the way around. So it's really hard to show you what the whole thing is without actually having the 12 by 12, and then it doesn't really fit in the frame. So that makes it hard. So I just wanted to kind of cut it down and make it a little bit easier. So some really interesting colors that are in here. And I just love, I love, love, love. So one sheet, one side is all blues, and it's Pacific Point, Night of Navy, and Coastal Cabana, I think, on the one side. And then there's some Calypso Coral, it looks like. I haven't learned all the colors in this one yet. Sorry, I'm trying not to cough. So that's the designer series paper. Remember, that's 12 by 12. Then there are 12 by 12 sheets of foil. And look at this. We've got silver. We've got this Coastal Cabana. Whoops, went on turn so you get my reflection in there. And then Night of Navy. I think it's Night of Navy or Pacific Point. Wait a minute, I had the sticker here somewhere to tell me. I bet I moved it. I think I moved it. But oh my goodness, it is just beautiful. And then, so we've got that designer series paper. We've got foil. We've got the stamp set. We've got the dies. And look at, there's these 2 little label dies in here that are really pretty also, which these will be good because of these little the holes on the ends to run ribbon through and wrap it around. Those will be really good for that. Now then, here is, let me take this out of the package. This is the best. I don't know what I did, but when I opened this up, I was so excited. Look at these gems. And there's some really, like, these are really tiny. I love these. And so we've got mostly these little tiny ones, and then the kind of medium-sized gems. And so it doesn't say the colors, but I think it's Night of Navy or Pacific Point. Looks like Balmy Blue, Coastal Cabana, Pool Party, and Granny Apple Green is what I would call it if I had to. So we'll see. We'll check my colors here in a minute. But that's the suite. This is a new one. And I started, but I didn't get to finish, making a card with this. And so I just cut this piece of designer series paper, and then I cut out one of the waves out of that foil and put it on there. I used green glue very carefully. You could do the adhesive sheets, but I think the green glue, if you use the green glue and a Q-tip or a paintbrush, it's really easy to use it with this. And so I think I'm going to probably just put a sentiment here and then a couple of gems, and I think I'm going to call this one done. I love this. I love that paper, and I love letting the paper do all the work. So that's what I've got for you tonight. I don't want to be on here too long. I can feel my cough kind of working up again, but don't forget, this is the February host code, February 22, in case you are watching this later. But when you place an order that is $50 or more, you get any item out of the stamp or the Sale-a-Bration catalog, level 1 item. And then I'm also going to throw in a pack of the iridescent rhinestones. So I hope that entices you enough to get those orders in. Oh, the other thing, when you have a cumulative order during the celebration period of $150, or of at least $150, then you will also be invited to attend our Sale-a-Bration with myself and Brenda Sellers, who is another demonstrator. She and I are hosting this event together. It is free, and the way you get your free ticket is by placing orders during Sale-a-Bration. That's at least $150 cumulative during the entire celebration time, which is January 3rd through February 28th. And so I hope you will get excited about that. So there we go. Just to bring back our card in here, because I'm really happy with this. I love it. I love this gold trim a whole lot. So there we go. One last look. I'll post pictures. I'll post some dimensions on there for you, so, and the colors, so that you will know how to make this if you would like to, or the products that I used. And so I think that's all for you. I will see you back here next Wednesday night, I hope. I'll be traveling out of town, but hopefully I'll be back in time to do our Facebook Live. And if not, I will see you on Thursday then, if we don't get back in town in time. But there we go. Hope you have a great night, and thanks for watching. If you catch us on replay, I'd love to know that you watched and where you're watching from. Thanks a lot. Good night.